All right. So do you guys actually see the title Managing Risk and Employee Management?
Yes.
You can see, okay, so you can see the slideshow. All right, cool. Good deal, good deal. You can see my ugly mug shot and hear me good.
Yep.
All right, I can see everybody. Welcome back. It's the same faces from last week. So thank you guys. There's, I think, a couple more in the room. Hang on. There we are. Good deal. All right. So what do you think we're going to be talking about tonight? What do you think about risk is? What kind of risk do we take as builders?
Losing money.
Losing money. Exactly right. Exactly right. That's the scariest thing about it, ain't it, man? Whew. Lord of mercy. There's times you'll rear end puckers up sometime. But it's almost worth the risk. It really is. It really is. I guess because we enjoy it to begin with. But other than getting paid, what are some other risks that we might face as builders?
Accidents.
Accident, big time, big time. Employees getting hurt, subcontractors getting hurt, the subcontractors' workers' compensation lapsing. They're not covered when they get hurt on your property. You yourself getting hurt. Do you guys cover yourselves on workers' comp, or do you exempt yourself?
Exempt.
Yep. Trying to keep that payroll down, so we elect not to cover ourselves. And so that can actually be a troublesome thing. As we saw firsthand, didn't we, this weekend, Brent?
Oh, yeah. Can you hear me?
Yeah, I can hear you. I can hear
Okay.
you. Brent's my brother, and our dad this weekend was helping him. Actually lost his left thumb. They were building a garage, and so he's actually got surgery tomorrow. They're going to try to fix what they can fix and do what it is, but it peeled pretty bad. And Brent was there with him when it happened. Poor guy never screamed out in pain or anything, just kind of shook it off. But
Said a few curse words.
Do what?
Said a few curse words. He's
Yeah.
because his day was over.
He was mad because the day was over. He couldn't finish working. But 72 years old and still working every single day. And that's, I think, what's kept him alive. So, but he's very lucky because he needs to watch himself, and hopefully this is going to make him slow down a little bit and understand that there's people there that can do the job. He doesn't have to do every single thing himself. But we run into this stuff all the time, and I know a lot of you guys. You guys are the builders. We're also landscape contractors too, and I know James is, and I know Mr. Honeycutt. Being an HVAC contractor, and Tony, a roofer. Are you guys actually working for the larger builders? Are y'all working not necessarily for track builders, but are you working for any commercial GCs with your other type of business that you run?
We're just all subcontract.
Do what?
We're just all subcontract.
Who does that? Who's speaking? I'm sorry, I can't see
This is Lamar. We're just all subcontract.
Okay, with
for other GCs.
Are you doing them for like home builders, or are you doing them for like commercial?
It's all commercial.
All commercial. All commercial. So you're probably seeing some of the stuff that we see on the landscape end with the payment applications and the bid bonds and everything like that. Are they requiring you to do that?
Yeah, most time we work under their bonds. We're still bonded in in Mecklenburg County, but we still work under the bond for the general contractors for the commercial building.
Got you. And do y'all have to be bonded with your HVAC license in the state of North Carolina, or?
Mecklenburg County requires you to be bonded. Yeah.
Okay. Well, cool. Well, let's go ahead and look at our learning objectives for this course. And like I said, when it gets about 8:50, we'll take a 10-minute break and then jump back in at 9 o'clock on the hour. All right, so our objectives. We're going to talk about the benefits of having a risk management plan. And a lot of insurance companies will actually help you put together a type of plan to reduce your risk and to actually reduce your premiums. You just gotta work with them. Insurance, we're going to talk a little bit about that. The property insurance, liability insurance, business owners policies, or BOPS as they are called, automobile insurance. And that gets me because I see a lot of people on their business cards that says, hey, we're licensed and insured. And then you want to see a copy of their license, and they hand you a copy of their driver's license. They hand you a copy of their, auto insurance. You mean I got to have workers' comp, general liability? What are you talking about? But you see a lot of people doing that, or they think their business license is actually their, trades license that they need. But burglary and theft insurance, that, for your shop, your home, or whatever. But even like, builder's risk, we're going to have on some of the houses. I'm sure, have any of you guys had materials stolen off a job site before?
Yep. The other day.
Now, one of the last custom homes I built, they delivered the stainless steel appliances, and I swear it was my painters, because I had some crooked painters at one time, but they were the only ones that knew that those were there, and the house was locked. Delivered it late afternoon. We'll go back the next morning. Boom, gone from the house. Did I turn it on builder's risk? No, we went ahead and ate it. We didn't want premiums going up. But coverage gaps and overlaps, that's going to happen. A lot of guys are going to miss their workers' compensation payments. They're busy. They're not paying attention. And if you're like me and you use Farm Bureau, what's the one thing you get from Farm Bureau in the mail every day? Something.
Damn letter.
A letter or something. They waste a bunch of trees, don't they?
Yeah, so you just throw it away and overlook it.
And I've tell them all the time, I'm like, guys, why can't you have a website that we can log in and see everything and just make the payments right then and there? But
draft it out.
Do what?
I draft mine out.
You have them drafted?
Yeah, automatic every time. The only thing I pay out is my workers' comp renewal every year.
Yeah.
When they have an audit, that's it. Everything else is
Auto drafted.
Yes, every bit. I don't care about writing a check. I don't want to miss that.
No. And I
I
never
don't miss that.
And using my agent, he'll call me and say, hey, man, it's due today. And I'm like, what? Okay. Just seems like, it was, due a few days ago. But anyway, those premiums do come around pretty fast. But employment-related insurance. There is some crazy stuff going on with employees. We may not see it much on the construction side or the subcontracting side, but employees, they're suing their employers all the time, based on hurt feelings and everything else. You won't believe some of the workers' comp claims that are happening because someone gets their feelings hurt or they feel overworked and stressed, and judges are actually awarding claims to some of these employees. Everybody is, I don't know, they're, got their panties in a wad, and they're just, I don't know, demasculinized or whatever. I don't know what it is, but it's happening. We're going to talk about insurance coverage for our subcontractors. We're going to talk about a bond. What is the bond language, the types of bonds that we can have, what it takes to qualify for a bond. It's pretty simple to get our landscape contractors bond. Is anybody here is anybody here using a bond for their license limitation, or are you just using cash in the bank?
I've just got cash.
Yes. Has anybody ever priced using a bond?
Yeah, they rape your ass. We looked
Yes.
into it. And a lot of the insurance companies we talked to, it was like they hadn't ever heard of it, or they don't even write something, for the $2 million or whatnot for the unlimited.
Yeah. It's even hard to get it for the limited. Nobody, like you said, nobody wants to write it. Everybody kind of like pushes you off to the side. I call the company that we got our landscape bond with, and he's like, dude, you don't even want to pay that premium. I think the cheapest we had found was around 13 or 14,000 a year for the limited, that you just got to pay to have that bond to get your license. So like I said, yeah, hell of a lot easier to have cash on hand. But we'll talk about bond claims. We'll talk about laws governing the bonding of federal construction projects. Anybody here work on federal jobs or do anything, for the military? I know a lot of guys, especially around Fort Bragg area, do a lot of construction, maintenance type work there because the military is always doing stuff. And then laws governing the bonding of North Carolina state public construction projects. So they do require a little bit more. And, they're looking for the minority-based businesses, and which is A-okay. I mean, not the type of kind of work that I'd like to do anyway. But then we're going to jump into interviewing and hiring employees, which is a difficult thing to do right now. There's a ton of questions you cannot ask people when you're hiring them. Anybody know some of those off the top of their head?
Whether they're pregnant.
Whether they're pregnant.
Gay.
Huh?
If they're gay.
Yeah. You can't ask anything about orientation. You can't even ask if they're married. You can't ask someone if they're married, which, I mean, most people are going to be wearing a wedding band of something, some sort. So it's kind of obvious, but you can't ask that question. You can't ask if they have children. So it's getting to the non-personal stuff. And, that's kind of sad because I like knowing our employees on a personal level. You feel like you get to know them and you kind of understand what's going on. The home life, it's just easier to work with them, but we can't do that. There's new hire reporting that we have to do. There's issues for hiring minors for landscape or construction work. We can't do it. Hell, my parents probably broke the law when I was growing up because they worked us like dogs.
James is in trouble.
Do what?
No, I was talking about James is in trouble now.
Oh, so you got kids, James?
Hell yeah, I got kids working.
Huh?
Yeah, I got kids working and Tony's got illegals. I mean, damn, what's the difference?
Now, James, are they your youngins or are they somebody else's youngins?
Yeah, well, nah, I don't got any youngins that I know of.
Yes. So what are you working, 13, 14-year-olds?
Yeah.
Lord have mercy.
Hey.
Yeah.
Whatever.
I guess you're right. So you get caught, ain't it? Well, I mean, I guess there are some. I mean,
how you gonna get caught? I'll pay them cash.
Yeah. One of them gets hurt. One of them gets
They
mad.
spread pine straw. I said they spread pine straw and mulch. I mean, you get hurt with a damn wheelbarrow and a shovel and go to the house.
Hey, dude, they could fake it. They can fake this, man.
He's got some big machines that can dig deep holes.
That's the grown-ups run. The kids don't get on that shit. That's James always running it.
No.
James is usually riding around in his truck on Snapchat.
All right, that's enough. Let's move to the next thing so we can get done.
Oh, dude, you got to hear me for 2 hours, man. Oh, so I got to record it and send it to the licensing board. That way they can make sure we did our thing, man. Oh,
we'll go back and take that bit out.
Oh, there's key employment laws that we do gotta, abide by. There's the Fair Labor Standards Act, the Immigration and Nationality Act, the Americans with Disabilities Act, and some other labor laws that we'll look at. But then North Carolina wage and hour laws, the required postings that we have to have in our office, an employee handbook and policies. How many of you guys take the time and actually have an employee handbook?
We got one.
You got one?
Yep.
Yeah, Tony, you got. You say you had 50 plus employees, or how many you got?
No, like almost 30, 29.
29. Okay.
We had 31 last week. Must have been a bad week.
or a good
I
week.
let my brother go and my father go today. I don't keep track of them. That's the office's job. I just know how many we pay, roughly how many we pay.
Oh man. But that employee handbook, man, that is something important to have. And you gotta, it's a work in progress. It's got to be updated often. It's got to be changed because, you know, the industry changes, the rules, the regs that you have, and you have one employee that keeps, you know, doing something wrong. It's like I said, it's a work in progress. Benefits. Any of you guys provide benefits? Insurance, retirement, anything like that for you guys, or nope?
We have 401k profit sharing.
Okay. Do you do any type of health insurance for them?
No.
No. What about discipline employees? You can't do it like they did in the old days. You can't use foul language. You can't get mad. You can't get upset. You have to fire or terminate employees in a very diplomatic way because they're being awarded workers' comp claims no matter what, just on the way you fire them. If it hurts their feelings again, trust me.
Unemployment, you mean?
Do what?
You mean unemployment, right? Not workers' comp.
No, they are filing for workers' comp.
Oh, when you fire.
When judges are awarding workers' comp claims because they were terminated in a disrespectful manner. You know, you can't just walk up to them and say, get the heck out of here. You're fired. Get off my job site, blah, 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 and start using bad terms. No, you've got to do it very respectfully in a quiet manner, not around any other employees. You've got to give them time to get their things collect. It's a lot of hogwash, but you know, everybody is super sensitive these days, and you've got to protect yourself. You really do. But I don't know, you guys, I'm starting to know y'all's personalities a little bit more. Y'all seem very calm and collective. But what happens if you show up at the office and you're in a bad mood before you go to the job sites, or even, you know, if you're having your employees meet you at the job site and they see that you're in a bad mood, what's that typically do for them?
Mine won't show up.
Is what, Donnie?
Mine just won't show up.
But if they do show up and they see that you're in a bad mood or that you're upset,
They usually know before I get there.
They usually know before they get there.
Before I get there, yeah.
But you know, if they see that if you're upset, they're probably going to be a little upset and a little timid and a little shy. If they see you happy and upbeat and positive, it's going to kick them into that positive mode and actually do a little bit better for you. So it's kind of hard. If you gotta get ticked off or mad or whatever, the best thing to do is hold it and go get in the truck. All right. So let's jump into the risk management benefits. Unmanaged risk can harm your business. It's going to give you a financial loss, lower profit margins, and unnecessary liabilities. This can involve assessing all areas of your business. So you got to look at it from the ground up. What is it that you're doing? But good risk management will provide several benefits that affect your reputation and the bottom line. It can lower your business and liability insurance premiums, can reduce chances of being sued, and it can improve your chances of a prevailing lawsuit. Like if you have this document in place, hey, this is how we are preventing accidents. We do the training. We document all of our tailgate, morning safety briefs with your guys. When you document that stuff, that helps pull down your premiums. And then if you get in a lawsuit and the judge sees that you're taking every necessary step to help your employees not get hurt, they're going to look at you a little more legitimate, and they're not going to automatically side with that employee. They may find some fault in what the employee's doing. Yeah, especially because they're going to go take a drug test right away. But you got to have this plan in place, and a lot of the insurance companies will help you write that. But insurance, It is a way to supplement your risk management program. Protects your business against unseen events such as accidents or theft. So how many of you guys have actually had an employee get really, really hurt, like severely hurt, like in the hospital several days, weeks, or whatever, and out, months with workers' comp? Anybody?
I have.
What'd you say, Donnie?
I have, yeah.
Yeah, what happened?
He fell off the roof.
Fell off the roof.
He wasn't supposed to be out there, but he was. He wasn't tied off. He had a rope out there, but he was supposed to be inside doing something, but he jumped out there to help for a minute and didn't hook up and got on some loose paper. That was it. He fell about 26 feet. That don't sound far till you do it.
Oh, yeah, exactly. Now he survived, didn't he?
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
All right. But how long was he out? Or did he come back?
Hospital 90 days.
90 days in the hospital.
Mm-hmm. Broke both his ankles, jammed his hip up, and broke his wrist.
And I'm sorry, workers' comp covered it, right?
Yeah, they fought like hell, but they covered it. They couldn't find nothing wrong. They sent their inspectors out and all, couldn't find nothing wrong, so they covered it.
What about not being tied off?
Well, he should have been. You can't watch him every second. His mess was there. He had the stuff in place.
Oh, okay. Gotcha.
But they canceled me.
Yeah.
They canceled me when it was done.
Yeah.
So,
and were you able to find it somewhere else, or did you have to wait a period?
it was about 2 years before I could get it hooked back up,
And to me, that is the most ridiculous stuff. You're paying your premiums. You're paying your due diligence. You're paying them every 6 months or every year, however you write it, and you have a claim and they drop you. It's the biggest bull crap.
We quit framing now. We don't do it anymore. We sub it out. But back then we were framing a lot.
Yeah. Good friend of ours that we use framing from time to time. He had 150 employees at one time back in the heyday, back in 08, 09. And all they did was frame. And he told me, he said, Eric, I never turned anything in on workers' comp. I have it. I pay the premiums. But he said, I just keep a running tab at the hospital emergency room.
Mm-hmm.
Just simple things.
$300,000.
Do what?
That bill was over 300,000.
Yeah.
Paid it up.
So.
I thought it was cheap though for to be in there that long.
Yeah. 90 days.
Mm-hmm.
That's what? That's $3,000 a day.
No.
Ain't
quite that much.
Yeah, about 3. Yeah.
Is it 90 and 3? Yeah. A little over 3.
Yeah. But guys, without what if we didn't have this insurance, we could lose your business in a lawsuit. And the less coverage your business has, the more risk you assume. Now I have a story, and this was about a landscape guy. I know it's kind of not construction related, but he's a tradesman. And the poor fella, he had a full-time job during the week, and he was at a job site on a Saturday cutting lawns at a stoplight, corner lot. His mower picked up a rock and was slung across, went through the passenger glass window and hit a little girl upside the head. Pretty big size rock. He had no general liability, no insurance, nothing. He was operating as a sole proprietor. Guess what happened to him?
Lost everything he owned.
He lost everything he owned, including his family, his wife. She left him. They took his house. They took his cars, everything to pay that hospital bill. And I feel sorry for him. And I also feel sorry for the little girl. I mean, she ended up being a vegetable pretty much the rest of her life. And she needed to be taken care of. I mean, it was his fault, even though it was an accident, but still a simple policy like that. Yeah, they would have probably canceled him, but he would have been covered. He wouldn't have lost his home. His wife probably wouldn't have left him. Serious situations. But insurance is a protective measure in which coverage is obtained for a specific risk or a set of risks through a contract. So basically our insurance premium is a contract that we have with the underwriters. An insurance policy outlines the specifics of the contract between your business and the insurance company. And the law may require you to carry certain levels of coverage: workers' comp, unemployment, and vehicle insurance. And let me tell you something. If you don't pay that unemployment insurance, who's going to be knocking on the door real quick? It's going to be the IRS. And trust me, they show up in black Suburbans, suits, and a sidearm. And a sidearm.
How do you know that?
Because it's happened. It happened. When I was married to the girl's mom, we hadn't got to the house yet, and she says, "I think you need to hurry up and get here." I'm like, "Wow, what's going on?" She said, "There's people from the IRS here." I'm like, what the heck? And what had happened, man? I downloaded the wrong tax tables. I had gotten off by just a little bit, but it was over a period of like 3 months. I owed them like $2,000. I mean, it was total mistake. And they showed up. They had a badge, ID badge. There was firearms. There was 3 of them. And it was almost like Men in Black, you know, the movie, the way they were dressed. But it was a large, heavy-set woman, and she was kind of the supervisor. And she's like, "We need that $2,000 today. Here's the records, blah blah blah." Like, okay, let's figure this out. So, but they will show up when you get off on unemployment insurance. So, property insurance. Typically covers your business and your personal property when damage, theft, or loss occurs. Covers a variety of risks: fire, theft, vandalism, and acts of God. Now, with all the rioting going on right now, I'm wondering if these insurance companies are holding up their bargain for some of these businesses. I don't think they are they? There's a lot of businesses, when that happens to them, they're just gone. They're shut down. We won't see them open up. The types of property that you want to cover: your buildings, your furniture, your equipment, all the stuff that we work with every day, your supplies, if you're keeping any supplies at your shop, your inventory, the machinery, computers. What about intellectual property? What would be intellectual property for us as builders? What about all the stuff we got on our computer? Stuff, our records, our bookkeeping. What about our plans? What about all these? Because we pay pretty good money for house plans, right? Or pay the architect to design the houses, and you've got copies of them. That stuff you don't want to get going. You don't want to have to repurchase that stuff that's yours forever. Intangible property, leased equipment, if we're doing any leasing. Some people do, some people don't. What's y'all's theories on that? Is that a good thing or a bad thing? Leasing your trucks or your equipment? Or do y'all just write checks? All y'all big time boys, ain't you? Donnie, what? You just go write a check, don't you?
I bought all my stuff.
You bought it all.
Mm-hmm.
Something's worked for me is I look over like the 3 months thing. Look at each month for 3 months, and if you've used it enough to pay for a monthly payment in those 3 months, then you need to go buy it.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
Yeah. At least some too, but it's just stuff I don't use much, you know.
Yeah.
I've owned most of my big stuff.
Yeah. Well, property insurance, all risk builders insurance, named peril builders risk, inland marine, equipment theft. I always remember my dad talking about inland marine, you know, as growing up and stuff, talking about that with Farm Bureau. Equipment floater policies, transportation floater, motor truck cargo. So if you're moving your equipment or moving your supplies, you may have to have a floater to cover all that. What if your truck was in a wreck? May or may not have been your fault. What if the person that hit you didn't have insurance? Who's going to take care of that? You're going to have these type floaters for your business. Liability insurance, commercial general liability. So for bodily injury, damage, or loss to property, personal injury, or even advertising injury. And even if your workers' comp, exceeds its limitations or whatever, your liability will pick up right there. It'll continue to cover it because It depends on if you've got, 500,000, million, 2 million, or whatever. I know we have a $2 million policy. Some of the commercial builders required that. So we have that. There's umbrella liability insurance. This is a supplement to the commercial liability. Directors and officers liability insurance. This protects the higher ups in your company, you yourself. Most people probably don't have that. Then there's contractual liability insurance, contractors protective public and property damage liability insurance, construction wrap up. So probably the only two that we're probably going to do being residential home builders is going to be the GL and the workers' comp. A lot of this other stuff pertains more or less for the larger commercial builders and what they would require for their subcontractors. But business owner policies, or BOPS, they bundle property and liability coverage together. This type of coverage can eliminate gaps and overlaps between separate property and liability policies. Like I said, how many letters a day can we get from Farm Bureau? Small and mid-sized companies usually qualify for this type of policy. Automobile insurance, if you have a company vehicle or a fleet of vehicles, auto insurance provides coverage for liability and physical damage associated with vehicles owned by your company. All states require it, so you got to have some level of it. Now, the other thing that you've got to worry about is if your employees are using their vehicles operating or doing something for your business. Let's say you're at the job site and you send somebody, they take their personal truck to go pick up some supplies. They have a major car wreck and they actually hurt someone or they kill someone by accident. Who do you think's responsible? It can come back to you. It can come back to you. If the lawyers find out that they were going to pick up materials or do something in the name of your business, you can get in trouble for it. They can hold you liable for it. It's not fair, is it? But it happens. It happens. I had to, James, you didn't come to the Raleigh class I did last January, did you?
No, I wait to the last minute.
Oh, okay. We had a guy that was in the class there, he called them his right hand and left hand guys. He's like, these guys did everything for me. He said, I could trust both of them. And it happened in November. It was around the holiday, Thanksgiving. And they were involved in a motor crash accident. It killed one instantly on the site. And one at that time in January was still in Chapel Hill intensive care. 3 months later, still in intensive care from the car wreck. He said the lawyers, and he said it was not my guy's fault, but he said the lawyers were, swarming the place, going through books, audits, everything. What they were trying to do was find out somehow or another that he was not operating as a corporation. They were trying to pierce that corporate veil so they could actually take some money to help cover the expenses in the crash. It wasn't their fault. But he said, dude, I am tired of, and he broke down in tears. And he said, all of my ducks are in a row. He said, it happened to two of the, my best employees. And he said, we lost one. And he said, the poor guy's still fighting for his life in intensive care. And he says, I'm having to deal with lawyers and everything else, trying to prevent them from taking what we've built up. And it wasn't their fault. That's what gets me. Burglary and theft insurance. It covers loss or damage by burglary, theft, larceny, robbery, forgery, fraud, and vandalism. And so I think a lot of this probably needs to be bumped up with everything going on. It does not cover your employee acts. So if your employees are the ones stealing from you or frauding you or even breaking in at night, it's not going to cover you. A fidelity bond or an employee theft insurance is used to cover criminal acts or burglary and theft by employees. Dang. On top of all this, you still got to deal with people working for you, wanting to steal from you. Key man life. What do y'all think this is?
It's my retirement plan.
For your wife, maybe.
No, for me.
How's that? Explain that.
The way they've wrote it up is a life insurance policy for me as a key man insurance, which makes it 100% tax deductible, saying I'm the key man for the business.
Yeah. Yep.
Which has a minimum, like where it can make interest is at 6%, where when you pull a loan, you only have to pay 4%. We pay $40,000 a year. It's $10,000 a quarter, and when I get 50, I get to pull back $200,000 a year. When you pull a loan against your life insurance policy, it's tax free. So I'll get $200,000 a year. I mean, my insurance is making a minimum of 6 and my loan's 4. So I'm still making 2% to the good as long as I live.
Okay.
So that's how this one worked.
Now, what happens if you were unfortunately, pass away tomorrow? How would that work?
Whoever a beneficiary gets $2 million.
Yeah. Yeah. And it also helps, anybody in here have a partner, or is it pretty much you guys running the show, probably with your spouse or whatever, but does anybody have a partner? No. We had an instance where a good friend of ours, they run a veterinarian clinic, and, it was 2 docs. One doc was large animal specialist. The other, took care of the cats and the dogs or whatever. And our good friend was the large vet guy. He'd come out and take care of the cows and stuff and do that for us. And we'd take the dogs up there, and his partner would see it. Well, his partner died. And they had this key man insurance, this life insurance in place. And what it was, it went ahead and bought out the partner who had passed away, his wife. Because what happens in a partnership if one of the partner dies? It dies. The partnership dies, and they have to sell all the assets and everything, pay off all the debts, and start over basically again. Well, they had the policy set in place where if either one of them had passed away, it would write enough money to buy out the other spouse's, their fair share. And so he was able to keep the building, he was able to keep the business and keep trucking along and not have to worry about paying his partner's spouse, the rest of his life or whatever. They had that policy wrote for that. So it's a good thing to have. And James, it sounds like you got a good thing going there. But it's beneficial if your company depends on the Pacific's individuals like yourself. It is available as life insurance, disability insurance, or even both. Coverage gaps and overlaps. It is important to understand that the coverage of each of your policy provides. Be aware of gaps and overlaps that may exist between the policies, and then the differences in coverage that can cause difficulties in claim settlements. To minimize conflicts, you may want one insurer for all policies. Guys, that's the main reason I am 100% with Farm Bureau. They are a little more expensive, I think, but you know what? It's good to actually be able to pick up the phone, and they know who you are. They know your situation. They know your policies. And I feel like they've got your back. And to me, I think that's worth it. If you have overlapping coverage, make sure that each policy has fairly equal reimbursement levels, and then carefully evaluate your risk management program and supplement it with the appropriate insurance coverage. Employment-related insurance, we got the workers' comp, provides coverage if they get hurt. If you're a sole proprietorship, partnership, or LLC, you are required by law to carry workers' comp coverage if you have 3 or more employees. Now, as builders, we probably got to have that anyway, because are your homeowners requiring that you have that? Does anybody have less than 3 employees?
I got less than 3.
But you're carrying workers' comp, right? Is it considered a ghost policy, or are you actually covering your employees?
I think they're covered. I've had ghost policy for a while, but I think they're covered and I'm not.
Yeah. And that's the way most owners will set it up. They won't cover.
I'm one of the employees, so I guess you'd say I got 3 so I'd be the 4th one.
You'd be, yeah. Okay. So then if you've got 3 or more employees, then you're required.
Mm-hmm. But one of them works in the office, but she counts.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, and her rate's a little bit different, probably. I mean, it should be cheaper. James, you were talking about that last week or something. Don't you keep lawn care guys separate from the landscape guys?
Yeah, you got to.
Yeah, because it could eat you up. It could eat you up.
Or if not, I mean, the insurance, every time they audit you each year, they ask. Like, you got to have it separate.
Is it what, separate payrolls or what?
Well, I mean, you got to tell them how much payroll you did for landscape and how much you paid for lawn care.
Yeah.
I think landscape's like 10 or 11% or something. Contractors for 33.
That's just a GC, or is that actually
The guys working for a contract company, they put them at 33%. I tried to call it like carpentry one time. Once they found out I was paying plumbers, electricians, and people like that, they said, "No, you ain't gonna get by. You're gonna pay 33% on them too." They had like 2 superintendents that did some work also, you know.
Yeah. But you're not required to pay it unless they don't have it.
Yeah, unless they don't have it, right? But it's still at 33% rate if you hire somebody else that's not covered.
Not covered. Yeah. That's why you got to get that. That's before they even step on the job site. You got to get that certificate of insurance.
Yeah, sometimes I need 1 or 2 for a few days. I have to slip a little cash or something, but that's not right either. Because what if they did get hurt?
Yeah.
Yeah.
And any contractor who sublets any part of a contract must first obtain documentation that the subcontractor is in compliance with the North Carolina Workers' Compensation Act. So if they give you that certificate of insurance, pick up the phone and call them and see that it's not lapsed, because I've seen guys with a little bit of whiteout and stuff like that. You can do a lot with Adobe PDFs on your computer. So call the insurance company, make sure they have it. Unemployment insurance programs provide unemployment benefits to eligible workers who become unemployed through no fault to their own and meet other eligibility requirements. Most of the time, we're not firing them. They just don't show up and they never return. Social Security insurance. Social Security Administration is a federal agency responsible for paying retirement, disability, and survivors benefits to workers and their families. Also responsible for administering the Supplemental Security Income Program. And so, unfortunately, a lot of our hired help, Social Security is their only means of retirement. They're not going to participate in a 401k. They're not going to participate in an IRA. They're just going to work and wait for Social Security, and that's not a good thing. Coverage for subs. When hiring subs, you should verify their insurance coverage is there to make sure it's adequate enough to cover any liability arising from their work. Does the subcontractor carry the appropriate insurance? And you might have to go back and check and see if you're hiring a framer that they are carrying the framer's rate. Is the coverage adequate for the type of work being performed? And is their insurance current? If it is required, it is prudent to write the requirements into the contract. Now, that brings up another whole topic. Are you guys actually writing contracts for your subcontractors? Or is it more or less, hey, give me a price, or this is what I'm paying. Do you want to do the type of work? Handshake.
Yeah, they've been with us a while. You just let them come on.
You what now?
When they've been with you a while, you just kind of let them look at that particular one and tell you what it costs.
Yeah, once you earn that trust, you earn that trust. What if you had to go out and hire somebody new tomorrow? Are you going to write a contract?
They just send you an email their proposal, which serves as the contract.
But do you have like specific things like, hey, you got to have this workers' comp, you've got to have this GL? Do you have like a simple little contract that you've wrote up and say, hey, for this price that you're giving me, you've got to have this, this, and that, and all that? Or is it pretty much just take the estimate and go with it?
Well, the girl at the office, she won't give them a check until they got that certificate. It's understood they got to have that.
Yeah. And probably before they even show up on the job site, because a lot of them will go buy it the day they know they're going to get that paycheck.
Right.
Bonds. James Bond. Surety bond. That is a risk transfer mechanism between a surety bonding company, the contractor, and the project owner. Now, that is what you can actually purchase to get your license limitation increased. It is a bond that we have to have for landscape contractors, which is only for $10,000, which costs $300 for 3 years. So very, very cheap surety bond for landscape contractors. The GC surety bond is very expensive. For that even limited license, like I said, I think it was $13,000 a year or $14,000 per year that you'd have to pay the bonding company to write the bond saying that you can have the limited license. The agreement binds the contractor to comply with the terms and conditions of a contract. And if the contractor cannot perform the contract, the surety bonding company assumes the contractor's responsibility and ensures that the project is completed. So, anybody ever know anybody that's had a bond acted upon them? Like the bond got activated? Nobody. The bond companies will come and take everything. They are some greedy, greedy people. We were doing a project at UNCG, the student union, and a very large project. They actually had 3 different prime contractors. They had the building contractor, the HVAC contractor was also a prime, and the electrical contractor was a prime. The electrical contractor went broke midway through the project, so their bond was enacted, and they hired Star Electric Company to come in and finish the building, who was doing it with time and materials. They were there for like 4 months, just raking it in with the bond company. And so the bond company will come after you and get their money back. It's almost feels like the mafia, to be honest with you. But bond language, the total dollar amount required for the bond amount is generally set as a percentage of the estimated cost. The length of the bond lengths are typically required by a fixed rate of time following a project milestone, and then requirements for notice of defect or lack of maintenance. This is a period for completion of corrections and is generally outlined after the notice of defect. Bond enforcement. If the contractor does not successfully complete all the required work or violates any requirement of the bond, enforcement measures are outlined to ensure project completion and proper maintenance. So it's all about protecting the owners or the homeowners in a situation like that. Types of bonds. Bid bond guarantees that the contractor, if awarded the job, will do work at the submitted bid price. They enter into a contract with the owner and furnish the required performance and payment bonds. Now, as a subcontractor, and probably Mr. Honeycutt, have you ever had to submit a bid bond for a large commercial project?
No.
You haven't? We've bid on jobs where you actually have to have a bid bond, or what else can you take in lieu of a copy of your bid bond? What can you take to the bid presentations? You can actually take a certified check from your bank. They're going to tell you how much the bid bond needs to be. So when you give your price to some of these commercial builders on some of the bigger jobs, you're taking a 10% check. So if your cost of the job, your estimate is $100,000, you're taking a certified check for $10,000. Why do they have to do that? Why are larger commercial GCs requiring that?
They've been burnt.
They've been burnt. They've been burnt. They get these guys because they always take the cheaper bid, right? And these guys get the job and they're like, holy cow, I think I've bid off more than I can chew. I'm just not going to do the job. Well, what happens to that certified check when they say I'm not going to do it?
It's cash.
It's cashed. And what do they do with the money?
Take other bids.
They apply it to the next higher bid. So let's say somebody bid on it and it was $105,000. They've got $10,000 from that first guy that they can take and apply and go ahead and hire the next person. So that's crazy. We're estimating work and trying to get new jobs, and we're taking checks to give to the builders. Now, they don't catch. If you don't get the job, they give you the check right back. It's only held if you are the bid winner. Performance bond guarantees that the contractor will complete a contract when it's time frame and conditions. You got to complete it. You got to do your job. The maintenance bond guarantees that for a stated period, typically for 1 year, no defective workmanship or material will appear in the completed project. Like a warranty period. Completion bond provides assurance to the financial backers of a construction project that it will be completed on time. Now, what usually happens if you have a set date to finish a project? And even if we have nasty weather, even if we have other situations or whatever, let's say a job is due September 30th, no questions asked. If they enact this bond or whatever, what else can happen? What can they charge the builder?
They can penalize you.
They can penalize you. They start taking money from you if the project is not finished on time. And they don't care about weather. They don't care about your employees didn't show up. They need to get their job finished, and that's why you'll have a completion bond most of the time. Fidelity bond covers business owners for the loss due to dishonesty acts by their employees. A lien bond guarantees that liens cannot be placed against the owner's property by contractors for payment of services. Anybody do lien waivers when you write a check? Nope. Subcontractor's bond protects the general contractor in the event that the subcontractor does not fully perform the contract and or pay for labor and materials. A lot of that happens. A lot of these guys bring their own stuff. Maybe the electrical contractor ain't paid the electrical supply house for the wiring going in your house. Bank letter of credit. It's not a bond, but is a cash guarantee to the owner that can be converted to a payment to the owner by a bank or lending institution. So it gets a lot different in the commercial world than it does residential world. One of my good friends does a lot of recruiting at the college with our construction students. And his name's Eric too, but he works for one of the larger builders here. He's an attorney. They have an attorney full-time on staff, and all he does is write the subcontractors' contracts for each job. So you're doing some major stuff when you have your own in-house attorney. But qualifying for one of these bonds, good references, the ability to meet current and future obligations, experience matching the contract requirements, the necessary equipment to complete the work, financial stability, good credit, an established bank relationship, and a line of credit. Bond claims. The filing process, construction law, and contractual relationships govern the bond claims process. The government statutes outline the filing process for statutory bonds. If there are project changes, the security company will not cover the changes to the original contract unless specifically outlined in the bond agreement. And then requests for additional coverage must be made and the bonding company notified. Payment in the event of default. In the event of contractor default, the surety has several options. Provide additional financing for the contractor to finish the project, arrange for a new contractor to hire subcontractors, or pay out the amount of the bond. And I'm sure that last one is going to be their last resort. They're going to want to negotiate with you. Laws governing the bonding of federal construction projects. The Miller Act requires performance and payment bonds on all federal construction projects greater than $100,000. A performance bond is required in an amount that the contracting officer regards as adequate, usually 100% of your contract price. Whatever you're giving them, you're going to have that performance bond in place, 100% covering it. A separate payment bond is required for the protection of the suppliers of labor and materials. And the Construction Industry Payment Protection Act of 1999 makes several amendments to the Miller Act of 1935. Do y'all know how often, like, what is the maximum days we can go without paying a subcontractor? Like, how many days do we have to pay them? What's in that little North Carolina, the business law? Did anybody have to take the business law exam recently or anything?
Isn't it 90 days?
No, it's like 7 days.
Oh, really?
Yeah, it's like real short. We're supposed to pay our subcontractors within like a week. Does that happen? I mean,
I got builders that pay me 60 days.
Yes.
60 days. If I want their work, they do a lot of work. And if I want to do it, that's their agreement they make with all their subcontractors. We'll pay you 60 days. That
Yeah.
just
I'm about to
tells
say,
me,
how's that work? Because you damn texted somebody wanting to check that day.
yeah, only you, because I'm scared.
Oh, okay.
Oh, you just pay that fast. I don't ask you to pay that fast.
Yeah, but when I damn ask for something to get done, it gets done.
You have a hard time getting your money from James, Tony.
Nah, he's a good one. He pays his bills, but I just don't understand it. That just tells me a guy pays 60 days. Basically, they're hurting for cash flow.
Yeah.
Let's say it hurt for cash flow. What they're doing is they're using your money to build their house, and they're keeping their money in their pocket. You look at like Marcel Gano. People say he's stupid. That's a smart motherfucker. He's using somebody else's money to make him money. That's a genius.
Well, they're getting their draws and they're letting it sit in the bank and they're drawing interest on it for 60 days. Sometimes 90 days. We've gone 90 days. It's just the way it is. I think the longest we ever went with Creative Structures, it was over a year, but they came to us. They had an emergency situation. They're like, you've got to go and fix this job. And we went. It was in Alabama. We're like, all right, we're going to do it, because we were doing like 2 in South Carolina, so we kind of fit it in. And we went down there, and it took them a full year to pay it. It was a repair job. We had to go and fix somebody else's mess. But like you said, they gave us a ton of work. And, usually it was like, 60 to 90 days clockwork. You file the paperwork by the 15th of this month for them to write a check on the 30th of the following month. I mean, it was unreal. But like I said, within 60 days you got paid. And that's the way it's going to be. And if you've got to go that long, if you can't go that long, you don't need to be working for commercial builders, do you, Tony? Because that's just the way it is. But the benefits of it is, do you make more money on your commercial guys?
Yeah, a lot more.
Yeah. And it's just part of that side of the house. You've got to be willing to do it. And most guys getting started or whatever, they can't do it. That's where you got to almost have that line of credit if you're going to do it. But North Carolina State Public Construction Projects, state public projects meeting the following criteria require the contractor to obtain a performance and payment bond. The total amount of the contracts awarded exceeds $300,000. The contract exceeds $50,000 on the project, and then the state departments, state agencies, and the University of North Carolina and its constituent institutions require performance and payment bond in the total amount of construction. So basically, like the federal too, they're wanting you to have 100% performance bond on the project. So kind of wrapping up the risk management side, we talked about risk management benefits, insurance, property insurance, liability, the BOPS, automobile insurance, burglary, theft, key man, coverage gaps, overlaps, employment-related issues or insurance coverage for the subs, what is a bond, bond language, types of bonds, qualifying for them, the claims process in both federal and state projects. And so, guys, it's 8:59. If you guys want to take a 10-minute break, that is required by licensing board. We'll pick back up about 9 minutes after, 10 minutes after. Is that cool?
Good.
All right, we'll see you here in just a second. So welcome back. We're going to talk about our favorite thing in the whole wide world, That's interviewing and hiring and retaining employees. The best thing in the world about being an entrepreneur, right, guys? The babysitting. I can't hear you, Mr. Brooks. I know you.
You got it.
You don't like doing it?
I don't like it.
Why is that,
Not
man?
one bit. I don't like it at all.
It does suck, man. It does suck. I swear, I think I don't understand what's happening. And the sad thing about it, being a, professor and seeing the young folks come in, the women are more masculine than these boys coming in. The women work harder and they kick butts when it comes to certain jobs. They can read a tape measure. They can read an architect and an engineer scale, and they just want to put out effort. Some of these dudes will not do it. I don't understand it. So it's like society is flipping. It's flipping, but it is what it is, and we've just got to deal with it. But employees should start off with a few fundamental qualities. Are they qualified for the position? Hell, we're just trying to find somebody to fit the position. Hell, we'll train them if we've got to. Motivated to do the job and show initiative. Motivation is a dead thing, ain't it? Ain't nobody motivated anymore. Nobody. They need to be responsible for their work and their actions. There's a big lack of that. They needed to be dependable to show up on time and keep work commitments. And they need to be open to learning new skills. We're actually seeing situations where the menfolk are actually taking off time to take care of the children when they're sick, or take their son or daughter to the doctor, or actually have to take a day off because one of them's sick because their wife can't do it. So we're not only dealing with that, we're dealing with people coming in late, not showing up at all, not even calling. What do y'all think we can do about that? Is there anything we can do about that? I mean, because it ain't the pay. People don't care about the pay anymore. You can't motivate people with money. So how could we motivate these employees to show up and actually come to work for you? Just top of your head. I mean, we may be wrong, we may be right, but we've at least got to debate it and talk about it and see, hey, that might be a pretty good idea.
I would say reward them in front of their peers.
Do what?
Reward them in front of their peers.
Perfect. Great way to do it. Great way to do it. What was that, John?
Incentivize them, if they work hard and produce, then reward them, and for a job well done with money.
Exactly.
You're right. I mean, you can't buy a work ethic, and we all see that people showing up on a job site that don't have a work ethic.
Yeah.
You can't pay somebody to have a work ethic, but I know it's true for me, and I see it in some people that work for me, that if you will incentivize them to get the job done, they will get the job done. They'll show up early, stay late,
Yes.
if they know they're making more money for that.
Yes. So a little bit of profit sharing or a bonus if they can get the work done. And like you said, even the ones, the laborers that you have, if you were to give them a nice logo polo shirt of your company, or, once in a while, take them out to dinner, take them out to lunch for, rewarding them. But the one thing that the younger folks care about more is time off. I have a good friend that went to a 4-day work week. He has about 33 employees. And he said, Eric, ever since we went to having off Fridays, he said the guys put in more effort Monday through Thursday to get the stuff done, because the idea is if we don't get it done on Thursday, guess what we got to do on Friday? We got to come into work. And he says it gives me and his office manager and his operations manager, it gives them time to get everything ready for the following week. They get their invoices done. They get their billing done. He said Friday is a day for us to get all of our paperwork done. So that's one way to motivate them. Anything else that can motivate the young folks? And y'all may not believe it when I say this, but a lot of these guys and gals that we hire are super good with this thing right here, the cell phone. If you were to put them in charge of like one of your social media accounts, I have another friend that requires all of his superintendents to go live on Facebook every single day. Why do you think he wants them to go live on Facebook every day?
Advertisement.
It is advertisement, but what's he creating amongst his employees?
Competition.
Competition, exactly. Those superintendents are like, hey, I don't want Joe on the house down the street that he's looking after to get ahead of me. I want my stuff to be better. I want my stuff to be done. And he says what it does, it creates that competition amongst them. And it's like they kind of watch each other's back. They're like, hey, man, why didn't you get that done this week? Why didn't you get that done today? That should have been done. He said they're disciplining each other by watching their peers go live on Facebook. I thought that was one of the smartest things to do. It gives accountability to the employees back to each other employee. But a good way to get that going. Interviewing and hiring them. Asking the right interview questions is key to finding that right employee. The wrong questions can get you in trouble. Some questions could lead to legal action and are strictly off limits, especially the following. How old are you? Do you have any disabilities? Are you pregnant? Are you married? Do you have children? What's your religious affiliation? What's your sexual orientation? And what ethnic background are you? A lot of this is obvious. Like I said, you're going to be, I can judge people, I can think, yeah, they're probably in their 40s, they're in their 50s or whatever, but we're not getting the young people to come work for us. So we're probably having to look for the older people. You definitely can't have any disabilities, but most people that do, especially a disabled veteran, they're going to tell you that. They're not ashamed of it. They're like, yes, I am, I'm 80% disability from the Army or Navy or whatever. They're going to tell you that. Most times you can tell if someone's pregnant, you just don't ask it. You can tell if they're married. A lot of people are going to brag about their children, so they're going to talk about it. You don't have to ask them that, but you can't ask any of these questions right here. And it's not really fair because, like I said, I'm an extrovert. I love people. I want to get to know my employees on a personal level. I want to know, do they have children? What are their hobbies? What do they like doing? Is their kids playing softball, soccer, whatever it is? I like doing that. But we can't do it in an employee situation or when we're hiring. Here are some areas to cover during the job interview that will be helpful in determining if an employee is the right fit for your company. The ability to work with other members of a construction team, ability to handle conflict, expectations of the job. What do they expect of the job? They may not even know. Like I said, man, they probably don't understand some of the things that we do on a daily basis. They may only know a certain portion of it. What is their past work history and the reasons for leaving those jobs? What is their level of skill or expertise? Have they had any training or education? What does their safety record look like? Do they have the ability to solve problems? Do they have knowledge of your company? And do they have any questions about the job? If they don't have any questions about your company or the job that you're actually interviewing them for, it's probably not the right person. You can tell right off the bat what it is that they like. And where do you think the best place to do that first interview is? Is it at your office? Is it at the job site? Or is it probably better off in like a public place, like a coffee shop, Starbucks or something like that? I don't want them knowing where our shop is. I don't really want them knowing where our job sites are until I hire them. So I'm probably going to meet them at a coffee shop or whatever and say, hey, can you meet me over there at 2:00 Thursday interview? You've already talked to them on the phone. You're kind of getting to know it. They've sent you their resume, or you've seen it on one of the websites where they post it. But we have to spend a lot of time. My dad has always said, you know, fire fast and hire slow. And you always are in the hiring mode. Guys, even if you don't have the work, if that right person comes along that you know is going to fit your company, should you hire them? Or should you wait? Sometimes if we wait, it's too late. They've been hired by somebody else. But always, always, always have a help wanted sign virtually in your mind. You're always looking for that key person that's going to, you know, run the show for you. When it comes to new hire reporting, you're required to report all new employees to the North Carolina New Hire Reporting Program no later than 20 days from the date of their hire, rehire, or their recall. Failure to comply with the new hire law could result in a $25 fine per incident for failure to report, or if conspiracy to avoid the reporting is determined, a fine of up to $500. Yeah, basically a slap on the wrist, but you got to do it. You've got to let the state know that you've hired them back, or that you've hired them in the first place, or rehire, or if they were laid off and recalled back. The following data must be included for each new hire: the employer name, your name, corporate name, your mailing address, your federal ID number, your state identification number, your employee name, your employee address, the employee social security number, their date of birth, and their date of hire. Now, isn't that funny? We can't ask them how old they are, but we got to know their birth date, right? They fill that out on the job application. Just can't be that personal. You can't ask them. Hiring minors for construction work. This is wrote for James Cheek, personally. He's not paying any attention. James, he's asleep. Look at him, dozing off. The state law requires employers to obtain an unemployment certificate for minors under the age of 18. Working hours for minors when school is in session. School is in session. A minor 14 or 15 years of age may not begin work before 7 a.m., work later than 7 p.m., and between June 1st and Labor Day, or more than 3 hours a day, no more than 18 hours a week, work is prohibited during the school hours. A minor 14 or 15 years of age may not begin work before 7 a.m., work past 7 p.m., 9 p.m. between June 1st and Labor Day, or more than 8 hours a day, or more than 40 hours a week when school is not in session. Federal restrictions on working hours or number of hours do not exist for minors 16 or 17-year-olds. And there's plenty of those out there, especially working in, you know, restaurants, fast food, or whatever. The problem with that, guys, is that when they're in school during the day, the time they get off in the afternoons, we're ready to shut down. You know, construction starts early and doesn't run so late in the evening, especially on a Friday. Most construction sites on Friday at noon, you're not going to find many people. Hiring minors for construction work. All minors are prohibited from employment in occupations considered hazardous. Operating power-driven woodworking machines or power-driven circular saws, bandsaws, or guillotine shears. Guys, they're not going to do this. You're not going to want that 16 or 17, and definitely not the 15 or 14-year-old operating those saws to begin with. They're not going to operate elevators or any other power-driven hoisting apparatuses. They're not going to operate power-driven metal-forming punching or shearing machines. They're not going to drive any motor vehicle or be an outside helper, like directing the traffic. They're not going to be allowed to be exposed to radioactive substances and to ionizing radiations. They're not going to be involved in the manufacturing of brick, tile, or related products. They're not going to be on a roof, and they're definitely not going to be doing excavations. Basically, they're going to be sweeping the house out. They're going to be cleaning up. They'll be doing the landscape work or whatever. They're not going to be doing anything that is considered dangerous. Employee documentation. These items must be included in your employee files. The Form I-9, what does that do?
What is an I-9 form?
Make sure they're legal.
Exactly. You better have those on form. James, why are you laughing?
Oh, nothing.
And how long does it take to get how long does it take to get the information back from the government that they are legal or illegal? Takes a while, don't it? Takes a while. Usually that employee knows how long it's going to take and they disappear anyway. And then they go work for somebody else and they know they got to do the paperwork. But then you got to have the W-4, W-5, the state tax form, employment application, the policy sign-offs, if you have that employee handbook, which you should have, and then an emergency notification form in case they do get hurt on one of your job sites. Key employment laws, the Fair Labor Standards Act, effective July 24, 2009. Federal minimum wage increased to $7.25 an hour. Employers must pay overtime compensation of, time and a half after 40 hours. Wages must be paid on a regular payday for the pay period covered. I see that a lot. Guys will pay on a Monday one week. They'll pay on a Thursday the next week. It's got to be consistent, guys. Has to be consistent. The act restricts the hours that children under the age of 16 can work and forbids the employment of children under age 18 in certain jobs deemed too dangerous, unless they're your child. Determining exemption status. Now, do you guys pay hourly, or are you putting them on salary or hourly?
Salary.
You're on salary? And they still don't show up to work, do they?
Nope.
Come in late, whatever. That's why I like I commend you for doing that. That's awesome that you trust them and can put them on salary. But seriously, when it comes to some of the labor that we have, it's hour for hour. And if they're on salary, either you, the employer, is getting screwed, or the employee's getting screwed if you're working them 50, 60 hours a week. But I do understand that if it is an executive, if it is a crew leader, if it is a job superintendent for us, they would be the ones that would probably be on salary. But any administrative personnel, people in your office, professional employees, if you have an engineer or architect on staff, your outside salesman would be exempt, and employees in certain computer-related occupations as defined by the Department of Labor regulations. So a lot of that may or may not pertain to us, but I'm a big fan of hourly employees.
My guys still do a timesheet.
Yeah.
They still tell me where they're at all day and what they did. They have to turn down in every week before they get paid.
Yep. Is that a handwritten form, or are you doing it electronically?
She prints out a form and they keep up with it every day. They write down what they did and where they went, because it's hard to keep up all these different places we've been. Yeah. And she needs to know that how many hours they worked on each job so she can bill them.
Bill them for it. Yep.
Yeah. A lot of jobs we do about an hour because we don't know what we're getting into on some of these remodel.
The remodel stuff. Yeah.
I don't know how much time I got in it, no matter what the contract is.
Oh yeah. Yeah. You need to know exactly.
Money.
Yeah. You need to know your labor hours on the job site, even on a contract job.
Yeah. I don't know how much I'm making when I get done.
Yep. And what are those always good for? Those timesheets or those records that you're keeping. You're probably going to run into a house or similar situation later down the road. And if you've got access to that and you're like, well, remember when we did that for that job? You can go back and look and see how many hours you had in it. What about the work week defined? The work week is a period of 168 hours during 7 consecutive 24-hour periods. It may begin on any day of the week and at any hour of the day established by the employer. Your employee coverage, compliance with age requirements, and the application of most exemptions are determined on a work week basis. Now, do you guys pay on Fridays or do you pay on Mondays?
I pay on Fridays.
Pay on Fridays?
Work week ends on Thursday. Friday's on next week.
Okay. So you're Friday through Thursday.
That's right.
Yep. So you write the checks the night before.
It's too hard for her to get it in order on Friday. She knows she's got to get it in order on Thursday.
Yeah. Are you guys using a payroll service, or y'all writing the checks yourself?
My girl does mine. She does tax work and everything. She does it all.
I
Is she your spouse, or is that somebody y'all hired?
Somebody else.
That's somebody. Okay.
There's a lot of trouble.
She what?
Keeps dinner cooked.
Oh, she cooks your dinner too.
No, I do that for the most part. Really, I was just joking about that. It just keep stuff smooth at home.
Oh, so I mean, does your spouse help you or not?
She works hard enough.
Gotcha.
She's a school principal. She goes to work early and gets home late.
Gotcha. Well, they're having a tough time with school, ain't they?
Right now, it's killing her. We're wearing her out.
Yep. So more power to her, man. That's teachers. They need all the respect, just like the police and firefighters.
I don't give her enough, I'm telling you.
But when it comes to, is anybody doing a payroll service?
Sure payroll.
Do what?
Sure payroll.
Sure payroll.
Mm-hmm.
I use paychecks.
You use paycheck, Sony's? Okay. Dad switched to that. I use
They handle everything.
Yeah. Oh, heck yeah, man. Heck yeah. Yeah. And it's worth every penny that you pay for a payroll service. Every penny. Every penny. Work hours defined. Work hours ordinarily include all the time during which an employee is required to be on the employer's premises, on duty, or at a prescribed workplace, our job sites. Employment practices not covered: vacation, holiday, severance, or sick pay. Do you guys let your employees, build up some vacation time or sick time? Do y'all build that in? The cool thing about that, the payroll service actually helps you do that. They can build that in, and they can see it on their pay stubs.
I pay them usually when they're sick. But, if they're sick, my guys are pretty honest about that. I don't generally pay them for vacation.
Yeah. And that's, and that's, to each their own. But it would be cool, it's good. And I think that's an incentive to actually, motivate. If they're like, if I work so many hours, I can accrue, if it's 3 or 4 hours a month. And then, if they've been there a year, hey, they've built up some time to actually take a week. But what about meal or rest periods, holidays off, or vacations? Are y'all paying them the major holidays, Christmas, Thanksgiving, or what if that falls during the week? Or y'all saying, nah, forget it?
Get my guys about six days a year, major holidays.
Yeah. Cool. Premium pay for weekend or holiday work? We're probably taking off. What about pay raises or fringe benefits? Reason for discharge: immediate payment of final wages to a terminated employee or discharge notice. Guys, you got to write on. If you're firing them that day, you have to pay them. You got to get them. You got to get them off the books. They're done. Record keeping under the FLSA, Fair Labor Standards Act. Personal information, including the employee's name, home address, occupation, sex, and birth date, if under 19 years of age. The basics on which the employee wages were paid. The hour and day when the work week begins. Total hours worked each work day and each work week. Total daily and weekly straight time earnings. Regular hourly pay rates. Weekly overtime earnings. Total overtime paid for the work week, deductions from additions to wages, and total wages paid each pay period. And date of payment and payment period covered. Again, one of the major reasons to actually use a payroll service. Penalties. Enforcement of FLSA is carried out by investigators stationed across the U.S. They conduct investigations and gather data on wages, hours, and other employment conditions or practices in order to determine compliance with the law. Where these violations are found, they may recommend changes in employment practices to bring an employer into compliance. Willful violation of employment may be prosecuted criminally and the violator fined up to $10,000. Guys, I don't see why anybody would actually put themselves in that situation. All right, when it comes to immigration, guys, these require employers to verify the employment eligibility of all individuals hired. That is the I-9 form. You can get it there at the website listed there on the slide. And discrimination based on national origin or citizenship status is prohibited. Employers may be ordered to pay civil monetary penalties of $375 to $3,200 per individual discriminated against. Wow. And I honestly think we're not discriminating against anybody. We're trying to find anybody that wants to fill these trades positions. American with Disabilities Act, ADA prohibits discrimination in all employment practices, including job application procedures, hiring, firing, advancement, compensation, training, and other terms, conditions, and privileges of employment. Equal opportunity in selecting, testing, and hiring qualified applicants with disabilities. Job accommodation for applicants and workers with disabilities when such accommodations would not impose undue hardship, and equal opportunity and promotion benefits. Now, yes, it is going to be difficult with people with disabilities probably getting around on job sites. So that's where that undue hardship will come in. Qualified individuals with disabilities, employment discrimination is prohibited against these qualified individuals with disabilities. An individual is considered to have a disability if that individual has a physical or mental impairment that substantially limits one or more major life activities or has a record of such an impairment or is regarded to having such an impairment. Examples are epilepsy, if they're paralyzed, HIV, AIDS, substantial hearing or visual impairment, specific learning disabilities. An employer is required to accommodate a known disability of a qualified applicant or employee unless it imposes an undue hardship on the operation of the employer's business. Now, like I said, that comes into play on construction sites. Here's some other labor laws. We're not really going to get into that. I know we've had a situation at school. I had a teacher underneath me. They had to take family and medical leave for some surgeries. They're not getting paid, but it just guarantees that they can return to work. Wage garnishment law. I'm sure we've all had to deal with people in child support, right? Individuals not paying child support, and boom, you got to start taking it out of that paycheck right away. Some more. We're not really going to jump into that. North Carolina wage and hour laws. Wage payment. Wages are due on the regular payday. Payment on termination. The employer must pay an employee who is voluntarily and involuntarily terminated within 48 hours or the next regular pay due, not to exceed 30 days. Just do it that day. Do it that day. If you're firing somebody, already have the check wrote. Withholding of wages, no employer may withhold or divert any portion of the employee's wages unless required or empowered by state or federal law. They'll let you know real quick if you've got to do it. Employer to furnish certain information, employee must be notified of pay days, pay rates, policies on vacation and sick leave, commissions, bonuses, and other pay matters. Wage disputes, when the amount of the wage is in dispute, the employer's payment of the undisputed portion cannot restrict the right of the employee to continue his or her claim for the rest of the wages. You got to pay them for their regular stuff. And then overtime, time and a half must be paid after 40 hours in any work week. Now, a lot of people pay the Chinese overtime. That's illegal. You can't pay them partial or whatever it is. Pay them the time and a half. Required posting. Some of the statutes and regulations enforced by agencies within the U.S. Department of Labor require that posters or notices be posted in the workplace. You can find a complete list there at dol.gov. Required posting, safety and health, OSHA, North Carolina Department of Labor responsibilities, employer rights and responsibilities, employee rights and responsibilities, and other OSHA information. The Wage and Hour Act, minimum wage, overtime, youth employment, wage payment complaints, right to work limits or right to work laws, unemployment insurance, certificate of coverage, and notice to workers as to benefits rights, and then workers' compensation posters. Guys, those are all benefits that we do provide for your employees. Unemployment insurance, Social Security, the workers' compensation. They need to know that they are going to be covered if they do get hurt on the job sites. Employee handbook policies. Again, like I said, if you don't have one, you need to have one. Who is a good person to actually help you write an employee handbook? Tony, I know the person that or the company you've mentioned, and James, the ones you mentioned, probably could do it. And who is that?
Paychecks. And there's also other companies out there. I get emails all the time willing to, write your book for you. We had a company write up employee handbook for us.
Yes. Yes.
Yep.
Good stuff there. And I mean, I don't have the time to write hours. I don't. I know some of the topics I want covered and stuff, but it's good to have, you know, people that's trained in human resources. I'm not trained in human resources. I don't know the stuff that we need to do, but you need to have your company history. Talk about yourself, brag about it a little bit. Let them know why you're in business, how you got in business, your compensation guidelines. How is it that you pay them? How do they get from, you know, just being a laborer to the job superintendent? What does it take? What is the payroll distribution dates and times? When are they getting paid? What are their benefits? What is normal working hours? That's different for each company. What is overtime pay? When is vacation time? When can you take it? A lot of the times they always take it in the wrong time of the year, especially on the green industry side. Sick days. How many do they get? How do they accrue them? Policy on sexual harassment. You got to have that in there, guys. Policy on the use of illegal drugs or alcohol. Non-discrimination policy, rules of conduct, safety policies, equipment and tool policies, and the disciplinary action procedures that must take place if any of these situations do occur. Benefits. It gives stronger company loyalty and corporate culture. People like that. And I know the larger you get, it's easier to have stuff like that in place. It may or may not produce a higher quality work and customer satisfaction. It can lower employee turnover, and it does increase productivity. Knowing that their family's covered with health insurance, or they know that, hey, you know, if I work overtime, I'm going to get time and a half. These little benefits like that make people, the good ones, be there. And again, we're going back to motivating employees. Provide informal and formal training opportunities for employees to learn new skills. Now, are there any certifications that you guys pay for your employees that you can come right off the top of your head? Green industry side, it's good to have our guys certified applicators if they're messing with chemicals. What about master builders in construction side or anything like that, or, you know, certified construction manager? Did anybody help their employees get, you know, any certifications like that? Well, it's good. It can help benefit them and motivate them and actually want to work for you a little bit better, knowing they can get some of these educational opportunities. Empower employees to make decisions and give positive and constructive feedback. And like I said, guys, if you walk into the job site with a chip on your shoulder, or they see that you're mad, it's going to put a bad taste in their mouth the rest of the day. If they see you upbeat, positive, and happy, they're probably going to be the same way. They really are. They're definitely going to be mad if you're mad, but at least they will be, you know, they're not going to be mad if they see you happy. They may not be on top of the world like you, but you cannot let them see you know, the downside, the bad side of it. You can't, unless it is time for disciplinary actions. But provide clear expectations for all your employees. Conduct performance reviews on a regular basis, and they need to be written and documented. Mentor your employees and tell them about advancement opportunities in your company and the industry, and then recognize and reward employees for good work. One of the things that I always hear from contractors all the time is, I'm not going to show my employees everything that needs to be done in this job. Why do we hear that all the time? People are
scared.
Scared of what, James?
Leaving, starting their own shit.
Exactly, but that doesn't bother me a bit. I want that individual that wants to start their own business in 3 or 4 years. Why?
They're going to strive to learn and do as best they can, so that when they get there, they're ready to roll.
Exactly. Exactly. I want every young entrepreneur that wants to be in this business to come work for me. They're not going to be my competitor. What are they going to be when I train them the way we train?
A sub and ally.
They could be a sub, yes, but they're definitely going to be a colleague. They're going to be somebody that you can consult with or whatever. They're going to be a friend in the industry. There's way too many competitors out there. I want an industry full of colleagues, not the competitors. So anybody that wants to run their own business, I want them to come work for me. Recognize and reward the employees for good work. Do it. Like I said, man, there's nothing like giving them a new hat, a new polo shirt. That can bring a smile to some of these guys' faces, especially people in the Hispanic community. They love that stuff. The value of job descriptions, and I hear this all the time at the college. Job descriptions give employees a guideline for the responsibilities of their job. They benefit the employees because they understand your expectation for their performance. So what's got to be in it? There's a few basic elements: job title, job description, including who the position reports to, and a summary of the job purpose, their key responsibilities, their required license and or certifications, and the skills and knowledge needed. And these job descriptions can be changed over and over again. They don't have to stay the same thing, guys, because your company is evolving and growing each year. That is going to change. Offering benefit plans can be effective means of attracting and retaining good employees. Health insurance, dental, vision, long-term disability, life insurance, and even a 401k or other retirement plans. Workers' compensation, guys, that is a benefit to your employees. The North Carolina program, if you're a sole proprietor partnership, you gotta have it if you got 3 or more employees. The North Carolina Employment Security Law establishes guidelines for state unemployment tax. Business entities are subject to an unemployment payroll tax if they have 1 or more employees for 20 weeks during a calendar year, or pay $1,500 in wages in a calendar quarter during a calendar year.
You know what stinks about that 3 employee person? You know how they don't have to have workman's comp?
Yes. What
so
about
if I hire, say you have 2 employees and I hire you as a subcontractor, when I get my audit, I still got to pay for you.
Yes, exactly.
Which
What
is,
what should you do in their paycheck?
take it out of them.
Take it out of it. Exactly.
And then what they say to me, well, why should you take it out of me? Well, I don't hire those ones anyways, but I'm just saying,
Yeah,
this
I
is
know.
how I know about it. I come across it. They say,
Yeah.
well, why the state doesn't require me, or the workman's comp, or the insurance bureau doesn't require me to have it. Why should you take it out of me?
Yeah.
That's a crazy loophole.
Oh, I know. And I just, like you said, I wouldn't hire anybody. That's the first thing I ask them. You got your workers' comp and general liability? Can I get a certificate?
Me too.
And if they're like, man, I don't have to have it, I've only got 2 employees, I'm like, all right, go on. Don't need you. Not even gonna entertain the idea of them working.
Yeah, that happened to me like 8 years ago. I had paid $35,000 in
Workers' comp fees.
I got screwed. Yeah.
Yep. Yeah. Well, with HIPAA guys here, talking about Health Insurance Portability and Accountability Act, you can't disclose any of that information or whatever to people. COBRA, if they leave and they want to keep their insurance, they can get it through COBRA. That can be expensive for you. Discipline and employees, guys, this is where we've got to be very, very careful. Corrective action may be necessary from time to time for employees who are not following policies and procedures. But you need to administer discipline fairly to promote a respectful work environment and to avoid trouble later. And progressive discipline, a method of corrective action where the consequences of the improper behavior become more significant. The main thing to take away from that, though, guys, is I'm a very passionate person. I can get very upset just as much as I can be good to someone. And if I feel like an employee's really done me wrong, I'm boiling, I'm steaming, but you can't lose your cool. You can't lose your cool because it will come to bite you in the rear. Trust me. But terminating these employees, when terminating an employee, you want to make sure that you have followed the proper procedures to minimize your risk of a wrongful termination lawsuit. Contractual employees, when terminating a contractual employee, is it important to comply with the terms of the contract? If the contract is breached, you may be subject to a lawsuit. At will employees means that either the employer or the employee may terminate employment at any time without notice or cause. There are restrictions, though, that you should be aware of as an employer. In North Carolina, we are at a will state. We can actually let somebody go for no apparent reason, but you have to do it respectfully. Restrictions when terminating at will employees include an employer may not terminate an employee for discriminatory reasons. An employer cannot terminate an employee for taking time off to serve on a jury. And what idiot would even think about doing that? You've got to give them the time to do that. Reporting health and safety violations, and Buses of power cannot lead to termination. All employers should use good faith and fair dealing throughout employment. Documenting poor performance is highly recommended. And that's where those, reviews, employee reviews should come in, at least once a year, if not twice a year or even once a quarter, guys. And so that does conclude the very end of the slide deck. Do you guys actually have any questions for me before we sign off here and actually go eat dinner at 10 o'clock?
I got a question for you.
Yes, sir.
So you report to the license board about these classes every time?
Yes. Yep. First thing in the morning. I've got to log into my account with the North Carolina Licensing Board for General Contractors. I upload a roster. That's why it's so important. You know how sometimes, like, when you got to put your qualifier ID. If not, Laura knows how to find it. But like, let's say Tony is your name really Anthony, or is it Tony?
Anthony.
And sometimes Laura will be like, all right, I don't see Tony. I don't see, there. And then we'll type in Anthony and boom, it pops right up.
Yeah, but I put my license number in there too. So that on that. But so, I went yesterday or one of the days to the hub, how we sign into our little portal. The renewal's not out yet, but I didn't see where I got the credits. You won't see that, right?
You probably won't see it. No.
Okay, cool.
Yeah, but yeah, we do it, and what I have to pay the board a percentage for the fees that I charge you, and so tomorrow when she uploads it, it automatically gets billed to my credit card for uploading it. So if you guys, if you ever have a question or anything like that, we've got that receipt, and it's got everybody's name and stuff on each class. So we've got written documentation for it. So
cool.
And I don't know their time frame of actually applying it to y'all's license, but from what I understand, Ms. McLam said it automatically gets, as soon as we make that payment, it goes right to each and every one of y'all's. It goes to your qualifier. They're not really worried about the license. They want your qualifier number because you guys are the ones licensing the company because you hold you're the ones that passed the exam. So.
I thought Tony was going to ask the question for me, but it didn't. Can any of this say or do be used against us in the court of law?
Do what now?
Can anything we say or do on this thing be used against us by the licensing board?
No, sir. No, they're not even going to see it, man.
Okay.
They're not going to see it.
I got two more questions, insurance questions.
Yes.
My painters say that some subdivisions they work in, they were prone to have automotive insurance. They won't see their auto insurance to work in that subdivision, the homeowner association. I guess it does it. Have you heard of that?
Yes, we've definitely heard of that. Yep.
They held his checkup 2 or 3 weeks the other day because he didn't. Well, he sent it to them and he lost it. He sent it to them again. They didn't get it, or they come up with all these stories. You don't know what's true or false.
Yeah, true.
What does it mean sometimes? My insurance wants me to get a second on. They want me to be seconded on somebody's insurance. It always costs. It costs about $100. I always pay it for them.
Is it like an additional insured?
Additional insured on the bottom of a policy.
Yeah.
It covered this extra coverage on like apartment complex and whatnot. When you get a landscape contract, you have to have a apartment complex and all their other LLCs above them or doing business as additional insured, so they can, if somebody comes and sues you and then they sue the apartment complex, they're actually using everything on your insurance is what it comes down to.
And a lot of the big commercial builders require that you list them as an additional insured on your.
I don't do any commercial, but they sometimes they have to do that when they get real busy doing a bunch of stuff. I'll get a little letter from them saying you need to be additionally insured, or when they audit me, they say I need to be additionally insured, but this guy and this guy. Yeah. I guess it's just getting to be big money, and they want to cover the property owner and me, I guess.
Yeah.
I've never really understood what it does for anybody. It just brings them somewhere else to go to, I guess.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
Sue for money.
It's all about the bottom dollar, man. The lawyers are hungry.
Yeah. There's a whole phone book full of them down here. Over half the yellow pages are lawyers.
Yeah.
And what's left, well, we don't have yellow pages anymore, but they used to. I remember having that phone. I mean, it was over half of them in the city of Wilmington were all the advertising for lawyers. And the other little part left was insurance companies.
Yeah. They're in cahoots together, man.
Yeah, they love each other, I think.
Yep. Well, cool deal. Any other questions? I got a 10:30 Zoom meeting I got to get to here in a minute.
Damn.
I'll sleep when I'm dead. That's what I always say.
I got one I like it more than I used to.
Well, guys, I appreciate it, man. Thanks for joining in, and we'll hope to see you again soon, and we'll get these posted first thing in the morning.
All right.
Thanks, guys. See ya.
Thank you. Have a good night. Thank you.
See ya.